Today, we're diving into something we all deal with. We're taking a journey from feeling like a totally helpless victim of our own emotions to stepping up as an empowered, conscious operator of our internal state. This whole thing is about grabbing back your emotional freedom from past triggers. So let's just get right into it.
I mean, we have absolutely all been there. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Someone drops a passing comment. Maybe it's a tiny passive-aggressive slight, and boom, your stomach drops and your whole day is just wrecked. It feels so powerful, right? Like it completely consumes you. But what if I told you that this overwhelming feeling of being hijacked is actually just a biological illusion?
Check this out. 90. There is a wild neurological truth hiding right behind this number, because neurologically speaking, staying angry is actually a choice. The stress chemicals that flood your body and literally create that hot, tight physical sensation of anger, they naturally flush completely out of your system in exactly 90 seconds. That is it, a minute and a half. So why do we stay mad for hours or even days? Well, it's because we consciously, or maybe unconsciously, choose to keep feeding those chemicals. Let's put this into a physical analogy that makes it super clear. Staying fuming mad for 20 minutes because someone cut you off in traffic, that's exactly like having your kitchen smoke alarm go off because you burned your toast. And instead of, opening a window, you just stand there making more burning toast. That initial 90-second chemical flush is the alarm. But sitting there rehearsing your perfect comeback and replaying the story of what a total idiot that driver was, yeah, that's just you continuing to burn the toast. Okay, section 1. Unmasking your emotional triggers. If we want to stop burning the toast, we have to stop blaming the outside world and figure out why our internal smoke alarm goes off in the first place. So, the first absolutely crucial thing we need to unlearn is what I like to call the button pusher myth. We hear it all the time, right? Oh, they really know how to push my buttons. As if we're just helpless little remote controls and everyone else has magical powers over how we feel. But the reality? Nobody can push buttons you don't give them. When a coworker makes that sarcastic comment that always sets you off, they aren't pushing a button. They're actually just revealing an unhealed wound from your past. Maybe it reminds you of a highly critical parent, for example. You are not a remote control. And going a layer deeper here, what we usually call anger isn't actually anger at all. Think of anger as just the big, tough security guard outside the club. It volunteers to be the loud spokesperson because, frankly, it feels a lot safer than being vulnerable. If your partner forgets your anniversary and you completely explode, that outer layer is anger. But look at the core slices of the pie. The real triggers are almost always hurt, fear, or shame. Deep down, you're actually hurt, thinking, do I not matter to you? And getting to the bottom of that underlying hurt is what actually heals us. All right, section 2, your hidden emotional superpower. This is where our journey hits a major turning point. We're shifting from just unmasking our triggers to discovering this profound, kind of invisible space where you really do have total control. The renowned psychiatrist Viktor Frankl discovered this fundamental truth while surviving in a Nazi concentration camp. He noted something incredibly powerful. Between every trigger and your response, there's a space. In that space lies your freedom. In that literal microsecond right before you react to a trigger, you possess the ultimate freedom of choice. And the crazy thing is, most people don't even know this space exists, let alone how to actually use it. So how do we activate that space? Next time a passive-aggressive email lands in your inbox and your absolute first impulse is to furiously type back immediately, just pause. In that microsecond space, hit yourself with a tactical question. What response would I be proud of tomorrow? Asking this instantly turns on your choice point. It stops you from being a pinball, just mindlessly bouncing off circumstances, and turns you back into the player, actually controlling the game. The core tool you want to use in that space is called the observer self. This is a part of your mind that can step back and simply watch your emotions roll in, kind of like weather patterns, without getting swept away by the storm. So if your teenager rolls their eyes at you, instead of getting instantly defensive, you mentally step back and say to yourself, I notice irritation is rising, or I'm having the thought that they're being disrespectful. See the difference? You're not immediately becoming the anger. You observe it. And that gives you real emotional immunity. Moving right along to section 3, training your emotional muscles. Now that we've got this superpower, we need to introduce a totally new framework for how we view the difficult people, the quote-unquote villains in our daily lives. What if those difficult people aren't actually annoying obstacles in your path, but are actually personal trainers for your emotional fitness? Think about it. Just like a physical trainer puts you through uncomfortable, sweaty exercises to build your muscles, these emotional trainers are building your resilience. That micromanaging boss sending their 15th email before noon. They're helping you practice staying calm under pressure. That passive-aggressive neighbor, they're giving you a free masterclass in boundary setting. When you make this mindset shift, you stop being a victim and you become a student. And speaking of boundaries, we so often think of them as these aggressive, towering brick walls. But healthy boundaries, they're actually more like the skin on your body. They let good things in, they keep harmful things out, and you get to act as the gatekeeper. If you have a friend who constantly complains but literally never wants solutions, setting a boundary preserves your energy. That way, you can actually be there to help them long-term, without completely burning yourself out. Because as they say, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Sometimes the absolute best boundary is just a strategic retreat, using what we call the timeout protocol. Step 1, recognize the trigger. Step 2, request a temporary break. And step 3, return when your prefrontal cortex, that's your logical, rational brain, is back online. Listen, this isn't running away, it's wisdom. If your spouse brings up a super sensitive topic right when you walk in the door, totally stressed from work, taking a timeout lets your nervous system reset. It literally prevents you from saying regrettable things in the heat of the moment that could take weeks to repair.
To get ready for those intense moments, you really need to map out your emotional landmines ahead of time. I mean, you wouldn't walk blindly through a literal minefield, right? Keep a trigger journal. Make a quick note of who triggered you, exactly what they said or did, and what past wound it echoed. By identifying these patterns, like, say, realizing you're always triggered by impatient authority figures because it reminds you of an old boss, you can proactively step around these landmines instead of just blindly stepping on them.
Okay, section 4, protecting your personal peace. Let's look at the final set of tools designed to help you, as an empowered operator, actually maintain this hard-won peace over the long haul. A crucial point here is mastering something called compassionate distance. Think of it like being a lifeguard. If a really good friend is going through a bitter divorce and venting to you every single day, jumping in and drowning with them by absorbing all their anger and pain, that doesn't help anyone. Instead, throw a life preserver from the edge. You maintain your emotional boundaries while keeping your heart open. You let them know you care, but maybe you gently limit the venting sessions to twice a week. You support them, for sure, but without being completely consumed. Which brings us to this incredibly powerful tool, the story stopper. Here's the thing, we don't actually experience reality, we experience our story about reality. Imagine you get a really curt, short email from your boss. If your internal narrative instantly says, "Oh no, they hate my work," the result is pure, unfiltered anxiety. But what if you shift that narrative to, "Wow, they must be swamped today but want to help me improve quickly"? The result suddenly shifts to curiosity and gratitude. Simply changing the story you tell yourself instantly changes your entire emotional outcome. It's a real game changer.
Finally, section 5, the 7-day freedom challenge. Because let's be honest, knowledge without practice is just entertainment. So let's bring everything we've talked about to a head and translate these abstract psychological concepts into a concrete physical habit. Here is your routine for the week. Pick just one technique we discussed, let's go with the observer self. Commit to doing it for just 7 days. That's it. Whenever someone triggers you, I want you to remember that 90-second rule, find your pause, and silently say to yourself, "I notice this emotion arising." Do not become the storm, just watch the weather. By doing this consistently, you are quite literally rewiring your brain. These small, consistent shifts from acting like a victim to acting as an observer, they create massive, permanent transformations over time. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with one final, provocative question to chew on. Who will you be when difficult people no longer control your peace? You know, the person who never gets bothered by anyone isn't superhuman. They don't have magic powers. They've simply practiced exactly what you just learned today. That empowered operator is waiting for you. So step into the challenge and go find out who that person really is.